Mm. Mhm. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Mhm, mhm. Mhm, 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 mhm. Mhm, mhm.
Hi ho, silver away.
He's high ho in the silvers.
What's up, boss man?
Oh, you know.
There was a girl I knew. Well, not a, yeah, I guess a girl I knew. She's from Belgium. She was an exchange student. And that was her like catchphrase. You know, I'm going to fuck you, right? It's quite amusing. But,
I would not take that as amusing. I'd take that as an opportunity. But
well, I mean, beyond the opportunity, it was quite amusing.
so you did take the opportunity. I see.
I did no such thing. No such thing.
Terrible.
So you tubing this bad boy?
It's where it is right now.
Oh Jesus Christmas!
I've never tried it. It's more of a test kind of thing. I'm the only person that follows our channel, so I don't imagine anyone's actually going to watch it.
Well, it's gonna be up there for posterity. I don't know about that.
The other episode's already up there.
Yes, but that's edited and clean, yeah?
No,
Oh, it's not.
nope, pulled it right off of the old Facebook.
Oh,
Just
God. Hey, how bad was Facebook?
what's that?
What did you put up on Facebook? Just it was
We
pretty much the show though, right? There wasn't a whole lot of
I mean, believe it or not, we're actually pretty good at like doing this. Like we're
lies.
pretty solid. Like I'll take out like the occasional stumble or like
Yeah.
mostly when I edit, I just take out like ums and ahs.
But you didn't start recording like right away with Facebook, did you?
Last time, no, I started a little bit in.
Yeah.
This is
All right.
mostly because I just wanted to test it. I can't always edit it after the fact.
I
You
will.
know,
I will watch my mouth.
trim the front, trim the back. Why? It's live streaming. They don't do much about those.
No, well, not for you. For me.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I was just kind of reading up. I don't know. Again, this girl.
She's. It's. I mean, it's. Is what it is. You know. It's just. I don't know. Nothing spectacular. Just kind of anti-Greta.
Yeah. There's some fun, interesting things I find on here.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting. I think. Well, we'll get into it, but where it comes from, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Telegraph. I'm not going to pay for your services, so
Which one is that? Telegraph. Oh,
Telegraph is meet the 19-year-old anti-Greta.
I actually signed up for I registered like an email account, a spammy account that I have, just to see what it said. It really didn't get into a whole lot.
Well, that's so far. That's been like what I've seen is not really anything gets into a whole hell of a lot.
Well, some of them do get into her white nationalist inspiration.
Her white national.
Of course, that's what it comes down to, right?
Just for the record, I can't stand the guy, but like I don't.
Which guy?
Molyneux's the one that they're comparing her to.
Yeah.
What's really funny is that they would like they're connecting her to the Heartland Institute. I'm surprised the Heartland Institute would allow themselves to be connected to Molyneux.
Well, it's that big circle, you know, like who so and so talked to so and so and they didn't tell them they were a jackwagon, and so they must support them, and you know, it's just stupid.
You do love your jackwagons.
I do. But I think Molyneux, why can't I say it now? Molyneux is he's evolved over the years, hasn't he? A little bit. I mean, I don't really know the guy other than like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm told like he used to be a really, really good, solid ANCAP,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of maybe
Yeah.
drank too much of the hop wine, and became a like my favorite Molyneuxism is, well, I'm here in Poland, and I'm not saying that it's a better country because I don't see black people. But I don't see black people.
Yeah. There's been a few things like that.
And he's like, and I'm an empiricist. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. I can have this conversation because, you know, you can have these conversations in predominantly white countries. Gee, Stefan. Okay, if you say so, boss man.
Yeah, pretty much. So
anyway,
to brush up, what there? I mean, honestly, it's not. This kind of sucks. There's not a whole hell of like I really thought there'd be more. The way people were pumping her up, and it's just kind of thin.
Well, I think it's curious to kind of take from, you know, the comparison of the two, right? Like anti-Greta versus Greta, and I think it's almost more of like a media hype type thing, you know, that they're hyping her as this anti-Greta thing, and it's like, I mean, even she's kind of like, no, not really. You know, there's a kind of interesting when they talked about her family and her getting like death threats and rape threats from like the lovely Antifa folk. What else?
You mean the what are they called? The
XR?
Yeah, Extinction Rebellion. That's right. Can't even remember their name.
I wasn't gonna go there, but let's go there. Yeah. That's but that's what it is, right? Like, I don't know. I think it was curious too. She mentioned something about something in there about these climate like the Greta folks. That's kind of like a anti-human
Mm-hmm.
ideology. Yeah, despicably anti-human ideology. And so it's kind of it's curious to see that almost put out in like the mainstream sort of.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I feel like that's something that's kind of, I don't know, a little fringy, right? That to suggest that all these people that are so worried about the environment are actually being anti-human, would rather save a koala than a baby.
Yeah.
You know,
All right. Well, let's start proper. This is
Starts
episode what?
proper.
Episode 38.
Woo! I don't know. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Let me look it up real quick. I actually have it written down. Yeah.
38.
How is everyone doing? Welcome to another episode of Free Market's Green Earth. This is episode number 38. Is Anti-Greta a real thing? I'm here, as always, with Ben the Liberty Hippie. I'm Nicky B. How are we doing, Ben?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right, Nicky. How you doing?
I'm loving that you're sweating up a storm already. You look terrified. All I have to do is tell you we're going live, and all of a sudden, like, you just freak out.
I don't know what it is about it. I just
Like, are those hives that I see?
no, it's just my skin. It's my skin. No, I don't know. It's just the live thing. I don't know. I'm getting okay with it. It's good. It's good experience for me, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe
See, I can cough, and I can edit that out later. But now, you hear it, and I ramble and I babble, and it's there. It's there for everybody to see, and I can't hide it.
and it's humanizing. Trust me, I watch a lot of live streams on YouTube. There's something. Like, honestly, when Eric July does a stream, sometimes like he'll just sit there and like it sounds like he's never gonna pick back the topic back up. Yeah, and it goes on for a while.
Yeah,
He eventually does. I mean, people are pretty forgiving from what I've seen, as long as the content's good.
yeah.
So, anyways, so we said last episode we were going to talk about this because
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
God Lord, it did. Back before we both had the coronavirus and everyone in America died.
Yeah. Hey, it's coming. It's coming for you. It's gonna get you.
That's what they tell me. I mean, I probably have a few of the dangers.
Symptoms?
No, not symptoms. I probably have a few of the things that make me more likely to get it than most, though.
Yeah. It's we'll see what happens with it. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. If you're not old and you don't have like autoimmune thing, then well, you'll probably be all right. But we'll see. Maybe it'll come back and whack everybody. Who knows?
Well, diabetes is the thing that makes me concerned.
Yeah.
So there's that. But anyway, so yeah, I was actually a little disappointed because we were way deep into this talking about it, and I'm kind of disappointed how little there actually is. Like it seems like they're trying to, as they always do, trying to make it seem like the right wing is worse than they are.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, right? I don't think there's a lot out there because there isn't a lot to be had. It's some girl who spoke her mind about the climate issues going on. CPAC picked her up, and lo and behold, she is an alt-right white supremacist, anti-Semite, and she's hates everybody that's not white, right?
I guess that's what it is. So
not really.
We're talking about 19-year-old Naomi Seibt. I'm assuming Seibt is how you pronounce that because that's how I would pronounce it.
Sure. Looks good.
Have you heard it? Have you paid attention at all?
I don't know. I don't listen to anything other than like other pod people that don't know how to pronounce anybody's name. So
nice. So the idea is that they're trying to pump her up as the anti-Greta. And this is probably done on both sides because I'm sure that the right wing would like to have somebody to kind of push against Greta. What's weird is, like, I don't know, Greta seems to have already kind of faded out of view in a meaningful way. Like, I know that she's got like some BBC show that she's going to be doing, but
Exciting. But that's the way it always is, I think. Like, these kids come attached to some news story and they last for a couple months and it's gone. I mean, like, remember David Hogg and Parkland? Like, he still struggles to keep himself relevant. He's still, it's an effort for him.
he has
And
to
it's
say
just
the single dumbest things on Twitter for people to care.
like, right, exactly. And that's it. Like this, when these kids are out there and there's no real thought behind what they're saying beyond what someone told them, it doesn't last. It doesn't evolve. There's no thought process. There's no critical thinking that goes with it. It's just spitting things out, and how long can that actually last on its own?
Yeah. So
Sorry.
no, you're fine. There's a couple different things that I do find interesting about this. So
why does she look like an android doll? That's like, what, like, does she look real to you?
Not particularly.
Okay. I didn't know if that was just me or if
Like, she looks kind of odd and like unnatural, whereas like there was like an ultra human part of Greta. Like, you wouldn't make anything look like that if you had a choice. So she had to be human.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated by the fact that, so like, if this girl is everything that she's cracked up to be, she is literally taking on the entirety of the mainstream and should frankly be lauded as a, what do you want to call it? She should be lauded as a feminist hero.
Easy. It was women's International Women's Day, right? Should have picked her up.
She's, well, who did pick her up? Heartland Institute. And that's kind of what so much of this is. I think that's like really why this whole thing started.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me when anyone that I've ever listened to gets, considered a Trump apologist or, far right organization. And you're like, yeah, those guys are kind of just boring and milquetoast.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the Heartland Institute does really, really good work, but they're like is bland and vanilla. Like, there's not a single controversial issue I think that they hold.
Well, I mean, if it doesn't jive with the mainstream, it's going to be controversial and wrong, right?
I guess.
It's just like kind of the way things go now.
I mean, what are your thoughts on the Heartland Institute, honestly?
I mean, I don't know too much about them. I haven't looked into it too much. I mean, I think there's science out there. I have a hard time with science. Because it's, for me, I think a lot of it boils down to who's funding your study. Where's your money coming from? It's very hard to be objective when you're getting paid. It's very hard to be objective, and that skews things in all sorts of different directions. So I always kind of take things with a big grain of salt and try to ascertain my own idea from the information out there, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, they do a lot of decent work in regards to the whole, especially with the environment. That's part of the thing. I'm like, they do have their moments where they get a little more, they're kind of more Cato Institute-y, where like, you're not quite my people, but you're not terrible.
Close
we'll
enough.
deal with it.
Yep.
Sometimes strange bedfellows and all that. So
it's not a bad thing to have multiple views though, right? Different angles on the same subject though, and it's good to have them, there and doing what they do.
I would
Definitely
think
is,
so,
but
but apparently it's not. So I think out of all, like I put a bunch of articles that I sent to you,
Mhm.
in the show notes, and there's this one from February 23rd that I get the impression it was in the Washington Post, and the
Mm.
only reason that they made the article was to sit there and fawn all over Greta. Like they wanted this article so bad just so that they could sit there and talk about Greta in the most positive light, because like it's pretty low on facts about Naomi.
Mhm.
But the title itself is the Anti-Greta, a conservative think tank takes on the global phenomenon.
Mm. Gotta pit our little hero against politics and
The
money.
first line, for climate skeptics, it's hard to compete with the youthful appeal of global phenomenon Greta Thunberg.
It's not though. It's not.
I
I mean, it is in the sense of what they offer us, but I don't know. I mean, and they did. They dialed it down to like even just comparing their looks. Like these two little blonde girls. It's just that. I mean, it's the Washington Post, so what do you really expect? But
Correct. I mean, this is an organization that is using conservative and libertarian interchangeably within this article, which is already annoying. Which is annoying to me as a libertarian. I'm like,
yeah,
I ain't conservative, homie. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. I saw that. I was like,
But they also like to gloss over the differences behind climate change skepticism and climate realism and a few different things that are out there. I don't think anyone like that. This has always been the thing that I constantly go back to in regards to the climate issue. I don't know many people that don't say something is happening.
Mhm.
That's the very like small group of people that say you're all crazy. The
Yeah.
sky isn't falling. The problem is that they're conflating that with, well, something's happening, but we don't exactly know why. The science certainly isn't settled on it,
Yeah.
and you're ignoring our actual issues that we have with what you're trying to force. And even if it is changing, why does it matter? Why do we have to believe that the temperature 100 years ago is the ideal temperature for humanity?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? Like, I think most people would look and say, yeah, there's something going on, but we have this arbitrary number set based upon our arbitrary studies that started, how
Yeah.
long ago? A blink of an eye. And, but that's human nature, right? To think that we know what's right collectively, this mass of people is big idea. We have to be right, you know. Um, I don't know. There's a big difference there between actually denying it and questioning.
I mean, what are your personal feelings on it? You think the climate's not changing in any way?
No, it's definitely changing, right? There's no two ways about it. It's changing. Things are getting different. Um, who's to say whether that's good or bad?
I
It's
mean,
it's different and it's going to cause changes, and with change comes, issues that we would not otherwise see that might affect us differently. But at the same time, um, that might not necessarily be a bad thing in 50 years. We might figure out a way that okay, so the temperature went up a little bit and now we have this at our fingers that we can use that we didn't have before, and might make life a little harder here, but we're willing to make that sacrifice because the way it is now is much better. Who knows?
yeah.
Um, so to try and control it all, and force people to do things, force economies to change just based on data that we have that's 200 years old, if that. I don't know.
Um, Now the reason I'm titled the episode what I did is because like it's odd to me acknowledging, you know, they basically Heartland Institute is kind of keeping Greta up on the pedestal in that they are trying to find something to combat her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I don't really know that this girl is the thing personally.
No.
It's difficult to, I guess, I'm sure we both know it's difficult to be an expert and taken
Right.
seriously in climate when you're not a climatologist.
Mm-hmm. But the thing, so I think that's one of the big differences between these two cats, right? Like you got Greta, who is, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I really feel like she's out there, suggesting that she's an expert. She doesn't want to have discussions. She doesn't want to talk about things like this is the way it is. How can you not like believe the science? And this other girl is out there saying, go do some reading, go do your own research, question the narrative, like look into things and make your own decision. And I anytime that mantra sort of pops up, I think you have to err on that side a little bit, right? Like think about things, actually think about things, think about where it's coming from, who is it coming from, what is going to happen when we implement all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she according to one of these articles here, she actually graduated high school when she was like 16 and went on to do some economics work at the college level.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that the world is trying to put up a girl who quit school and played hooky at 16 against a girl who graduated early?
Yeah, that's how it goes, right?
Also, a girl who sees colors coming out of the smokestacks versus a girl who has actual training.
But that's once you get that far crazy, like smokestack crazy, like you can't pick up people like that anymore.
Well, that's what's so stupid about all this is that, like, the fact of the matter is, the people are going to take Greta more seriously because they're trained to, follow the heart as opposed to listen to your fucking brain.
Yeah,
It's frustrating, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, is that? I don't know if that's the way we've been conditioned, or if that's just human nature, or what that is. But it's curious thing. We do seem to do that much more as a collective. Think with the heart, not the brain.
Well, I mean, I'm scrolling as we're talking. I'm scrolling through this article where literally this article the Washington posted is entirely about Greta, and not at all about Naomi. Which is I see everything seems to be about. Even the Heartland Institute doesn't have like the bio they have on her is the most minuscule little thing ever. But I'm looking at a quote here. "I want you to panic," she told attendees in the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland last year. "I want you to feel the fear I fear every day, and then I want you to act."
Yeah.
As far as I know, no good decisions are ever made in a panic. That's when people die trying to get out of the theater. They get trampled to death.
That's when the grocery store runs out of toilet paper and I don't know, bottles of water. Is that what we're losing now?
Believe me, I thought whether or not we should cover that today because, to be honest, it's getting a little close to home here.
Yeah. I heard there was one up in Akron, maybe.
I heard that there are 3 cases in Cleveland.
Okay. All right.
And now I personally wouldn't be too concerned about them, but one of my jobs that I do often come into contact with immigrants. In that I work in bodegas an awful lot.
Okay.
And so I believe the people they said were in Egypt, and I definitely know people from Egypt that I work with. So it's like, I mean, Liz had to have the talk about that whole coronavirus thing today. As with all things, I think the panic is really going to be the more difficult part.
That's what it is. I mean, I think, between you had the Asian economy over there, you had the Chinese New Year kind of shut things down for a little bit. This kind of happened. And like, what's that going to do to goods coming out, and how long is that train going to get shut off? And then you got the panic of it all, and I think we're already seeing that kind of play out. It's all interconnected, between the coronavirus, the stock market, the oil, all that stuff. It just it's mixing up to be a big melting pot of craziness.
Well, it's because all decisions become all issues become economic issues at some point. There's not a single issue that we face that isn't an economic issue.
Oh, that's it, right? They all are. Every single one is, and the people that think they aren't are uneducated. Is that the right word?
Well, you can be educated to all hell and still be an idiot, apparently. I find that's definitely something that happens.
Yeah.
So,
uneducated, and I can't let it pass. They quoted one of these articles, quoted the SPLC, and stated it as like, well, if the SPLC says that Naomi and her friends are bad business, then we have to believe them.
I'm just waiting until I have an SPLC page.
I can only hope so much, right?
It's gonna happen eventually.
But so I wonder, because I the circles I run in are not mainstream, right?
Michael Bolden is considered a leader of a terrorist organization,
right?
according to SPLC, and he is the sweetest man in the world.
So people outside of our circle, do they recognize that the SPLC is like this leftist bastion of hate and fear that just makes things up? Or is it like, in the general public, is it widely accepted as this real thing that calls out?
I think it depends who you are.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, because I mean, it's not like they haven't been sued by their critics from the left also. Tim Pool managed to get a formal apology from them. Another guy managed to get sue the shit out of them. He made millions off the deal. Because
that's what we got to do, Nicky. That's our game plan.
I mean, I'm not going to assume that we're not high profile enough to manage to take them to court the way that we would need to. And we're both not socialists, so
yeah,
that we don't have that to protect us. That's what Tim Pool's got. But yeah, the whole thing's super frustrating. Like I said, in the case of Michael Bolden, like, he's an old left-wing hippie. He's like he's like me. He's a lefty. He's not a I think oftentimes he feels just as kind of outside as anyone else does. And the idea that people would consider him like a dangerous right winger, and you're like, you just don't know anything about what you're talking about.
It's a curious thing. Like, is it that they
just
don't?
For the record, our hashtag for the episode that me and Lizzie did with him of whatever it was,
Peace Freaks
sounds like liberty. I can't remember. It was before the change, so
it was.
Liberty. Her hashtag was gay black disco. Because that's Michael Bolden for you. He's a guy who, found himself in the rave scene.
I remember that.
Helping gay black men dance.
Yeah,
DJing.
It's amazing what passes for hate these days.
A hate monger. Well, I mean, I'm apparently racist too. Married to a black woman. I have a half black daughter. Live my entire life for and love more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
So
that's just because you're an imperialist, right?
Well, it was just so. Well, one of the articles I don't believe we talked about it a little bit in the pre-roll,
right?
But they were talking about how they're really trying to blow up the fact that Naomi was, quoted one of her inspirations as being an evil white supremacist.
That whole thing really like kind of, because at one point they pointed out like she's talking about there was an attack on a synagogue and 2 people got killed, and she said, and it's not a quote from her, this is a quote from the article, and only part of what she said is in quotes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's said uh, and said Jews were considered to be at the top of groups who were seen as being oppressed. Ordinary Germans, she said, were at the bottom. Muslims, she added, were somewhere in between. I don't know what the laws are like in Germany, but it sounds to me like she's sort of describing uh,
Draconian as fuck is what they
well,
are.
well be, beyond that, but it sounds like hate crime laws that if you punch a white guy or punch a black guy, like there's different crimes depending on who your victim was. And I don't know, to me that's not right wing. That's like, if you kill someone, you kill someone. It doesn't matter what they are, who they are. You killed that person. It doesn't matter your motives. You killed that person.
Yeah.
Like, and they called that like alt-right or whatever. I was like, man,
Don't get me wrong. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not a fan of Stefan Molyneux.
and then they got onto to that. It was weird because I feel like, and maybe it's just my comprehension that's poor, but they seem to mush it together. That she said that as something and then dropped it into
Yeah, because that's how they write that's how they write these nonsense articles when they write them, is they try and like make your brain make connections that aren't there.
Yeah.
Now, I have plenty of friends that like Steph, and most importantly, and plenty of friends that like how Steph used to be back when he used to be a hardcore ANCAP. Some will say he still is. I think he focuses too much on race, personally, and it's a poor choice as far as I'm concerned. But he also is one of the biggest proponents of peaceful parenting on the planet, and has done a lot of good work helping people learn philosophy. And so
Yeah.
I refuse to throw babies out with bathwater, and that's all people seem to want to do anymore.
Yeah, you say one thing and it's it. I don't know him at all, really. I never really paid attention to him. By the time I kind of came around to it all, he was a little over the edge, to say the least. All I know is from what I've heard on Fagcast. I know he didn't come out with the Noogaloo in 2019, so I guess that is
came so close though. God,
yeah.
Seemed like he was just trying to play with him.
Well, that's my knowledge of the guy. The fact that you could even be considered or even be bet upon to say something like that. I think it says something. That that says enough. But I don't know.
We're also talking about a 19-year-old girl who, 19-year-old girls tend to have questionable taste in people.
Well, but and that's another part of it, right? Like, and this is a whole other side tangent kind of thing, but it goes back to like the Parkland thing and these kids, and we got to listen to the kids, and people, I remember seeing memes thrown about like the founding fathers and the age of the people then, and like, it's a different society, it's a different world. Like, people are not mature at that age, right? Like,
They're purposely dematured,
right? And
like,
so
adolescence is a thing that didn't exist until like 40 years ago.
And we expect these kids now to, like, let's listen to these people that we've infantilized. Like, they're still children, and we want to think that they make these huge sweeping wonderful exclamations, and that goes for Anti-Greta girl as well as Greta.
I mean, I think we can only do better the later we push the voting age. Preferably,
I wouldn't be opposed.
Preferably after death. That's when you get a right to vote.
Hey, yeah, you know what? You'd still have people in California voting. Just gonna put it out
there. You're terrible. Not wrong, but terrible.
The other thing, it'd be curious thought. If you were to take the voting age and Yeah, you really ought to. If you can't vote, then you can't pay taxes, right? What happens then? Um, all these little kids working wouldn't have to pay taxes, and then they'd come in, they turn 18, all of a sudden they got to pay taxes on what they've been working. It'd be a push for our direction, I think. Maybe not.
Well, and there is a certain degree to which I think that might be part of the issue here is that um, Gen Z, at least certainly here in America, has definitely taken
Mhm.
a step towards the more conservative bent. They're definitely looking more like libertarians and conservatives because I think they've seen the overcorrection that
Mhm.
the modern left has taken.
I have not
And 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 s-
studied.
and so I think
uh,
there's kind of like a Pied Piper element to like the people like Naomi. That's why they hate them because they see them as like, oh, these are the one. This is the person that's gonna take them over the edge and make
yeah.
make Nazis out of our youth.
Ah, that
How
is
dare they?
it's that you just don't like. It's a pendulum, right? And it goes back and forth, and people push either way, and they keep pushing harder and harder and harder. And that's what I think. I mean, I don't know. I've not actually studied like uh, generations, right? And how they push and where they go, but it would seem like that. And I would hope that, you know, Gen Z kind of doesn't go quite as hard
Mm-hmm.
as the boomers have, right? Retaliate against like sort of the boomers and the millennials that were kind of stick to the middle a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not not looking forward to it. It'd be nice if we could all just agree not to vote and be done with it. I heard. Check this. In Georgia, if there's one person on the ballot, right? Nobody votes. That one person would still would get that seat because there's a law that assumes you would vote for yourself.
Really?
Yes, this is what I learned today. So even if nobody voted in an election in Georgia, and there's one person, that person would win.
That's insane.
Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know about government?
I mean, that seems like it always seems like their goal is to get everyone to stop voting.
Well, and then they just put in whoever they feel like putting in and
Yeah,
doing whatever they
they
feel
want
like
you
doing.
not paying attention. Just let us put who we want in.
They do they did a darn good job. I tell you, man. I heard Ron Paul in 2008, and I just after Obama and Romney, it was like, man, I'm done. And I shut down for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just like, what's the point? What is the point? You have a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And that's just the epitome of politics, and that's what it is. And it took a while for me to realize that there is I don't know, something else out there that might just be a giant tampon, but it's better than a giant juice and a turd sandwich. Maybe not, but
I was gonna say maybe not. Is probably more accurate.
I don't know. There's other options out there. That's the thing.
The more time I spend on the Libertarian Party, the less I want to be part of any kind of electoral politics.
Well,
They're
but
all
even
pretty
that, though,
terrible.
it doesn't have to be like electoral politics. There's other ways out there to do things, beyond
Mm-hmm.
voting in November.
So we've been a little bit of a tangent, and mostly
Sorry.
because no, this isn't you. This is mostly a lack of information. Like I said, I couldn't find anything that really meant anything.
There's not a
There,
lot out there.
yeah, like
It really isn't.
so. I think the idea of an anti-Greta is kind of way overblown, if nothing else.
Hmm. Well, I think and she meant she said kind of that she did not want that name, right? Like she did not coin herself as anti-Greta. That was the rags from wherever that called her
Yeah, it's a
anti-Greta.
way to diminish her,
It is, and it's also a way to kind of
keep Greta in the spotlight by
pin
forcing her
them,
name out
pit
there.
them against each other, create this pseudo dialogue of what's going on.
It's called a dialectic.
Ooh, fancy words. I don't know.
All right. Um. So yeah, I mean, it's just there's not much there. I think that I think that the lesson to be taken away is there's not a lot here. Maybe in the future, maybe 5 years from now, like she'll have kind of cataloged herself some background and have some cachet. But I mean, a 19-year-old YouTube personality. I think the whole idea is that, so they wanted to make a pretty girl on their side,
Yeah.
and
If they were going for optics though, they really could have gone with somebody that didn't fit that like alt-right stereotype.
well, she's German, so no, they weren't gonna do
Uh,
much.
they could have found somebody else from somewhere or something. I don't know. Oh man, if they're just gonna puppeteer things like.
Well, I mean, they could have went to South America, but they're all commies, so it wasn't gonna work out that way either.
All right, fine.
There's only so many places they can go and find people that actually still believe in the free market at all, anyways.
Yeah, I was surprised. She. I mean, I don't know what she actually believes, but some of the things she said is kind of like, huh, okay. And didn't know people in Germany still kind of felt like that, but all right.
Yeah, she's working at the Heartland Institute now, so now she's an American, right?
I guess how that all works.
So, anyways, there is going to be a bunch of information, a bunch of links in the show notes. You can kind of have a look at what's out there. You tell us what you think. Like I said, I think it's a whole lot of smoke, no fire.
Yeah, for sure. It keeps Greta in the spotlight. You know,
Is that where you want?
makes
Where you want her in the spotlight?
not mine. And it makes the. I think it's a little conspiratorial. That's where my brain goes. But keeping this girl in the spotlight. She's a climate skeptic, right? And now let's associate her with the alt right. I mean, we all know how things trickle down around here.
Well, dude, what's terrible is like honestly some of the craziest people that have like perpetrated some of the most awful acts out there have been like enviro justice people. Look at that dude from what was it? The one mass shooter in New Zealand. Like that was his big thing above everything else was the environment. It's almost a trope at this point. The PETA types that are.
No, I mean it is. I sent you an article a couple weeks ago about freaking vegans in India, like just killing meat eaters because God knows why. I don't know, but like that, it's a thing and it actually happens, and it's frightening. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ben, it has been fun. It's always fun getting the chance to shoot the shit and talk about
Yeah, buddy.
stuff because it's a good conversation to have. I actually need to get a hold of somebody over at the Heartland Institute because I do I do spend a lot of time looking at their stuff and listen to some of their podcasts, but they could definitely stand to up the entertainment value a little bit.
Ooh.
That's not meant to be I still listen to the shows. I just think that I'd be more apt to share them if they really sizzled. I think the guys over at the In the Tank podcast actually do. They're fairly entertaining. The actual environment one that they put out once a week is a little dry. It's kind of like the difference, like if you listen to Reason versus Cato, like Reason actually usually Reason actually puts out fairly entertaining stuff. They got Stossel, who's a good entertainer.
Yep.
Nick Gillespie, for all his flaws, is a fairly entertaining guy. He's a bit goofy. Whereas Cato, like, oh my god, some of them it's just so dry, and there's so much information, and it's like I'm dozing off halfway towards the end, and I'm like, all right, guys.
About it.
Like I'm gonna listen to my next podcast. That's gonna make me laugh.
Yeah.
So, man, that's kind of like where I look at us. We're the free market environment guys that can make you laugh.
I hope so. Make more fart jokes and stuff. But
I'm excited to see that the numbers have been going up.
Hey.
Our most recent ones both broken 50.
Huzzah!
That's a good start for us.
Yeah.
I wanna quadruple that in a week. See if we can make that happen.
All right.
But it's like I don't know how to do it, but whatever.
Do math. Yeah.
So go out, tell your friends. Look us up on the old what do you call it? The old iTunes. Give us a like and a share.
And review the darn thing, man.
I
Bunch of
want to know what people think of us mostly.
slackers out there.
I finally put the
Kicking my camera.
Yeah, I finally put iTunes on my computer so I can do some of that.
I had to do that for my other podcast, but yeah. I'm surprised we haven't gotten any insightful comments or hateful.
I'm actually
emails
I'm actually a little surprised about that.
Yeah.
I think if anything, I think that our earnestness comes through. I think they just think, oh, these guys are idiots, but
Then tell me I'm an idiot, you bastard. Write it down. Let me know.
all right. Well, you have a good one there, Ben.
All right, Nicky.
You folks all take it easy. We're gonna go and
Figure out next week's show.
that's what we're gonna do. Oh, good Lord.
All right, y'all. You have a good night out there, and I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Tell your friends, share it, write a review. Let us know when you want to set up that Patreon account. You can start giving us your hard-earned dollar bill.
Peace.